Welcome back to another sim of the 2020 Toronto Blue Jays season. I'm JayBlue of Blue Jays from Away. You can find me on Twitter at Jays from Away. We've simmed this week. We're now up to August 10th, and it was not a great week for the Blue Jays. We went 2-5, and let's take a look at what's going on here. We started off with a win against the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay Rays are probably one of the best teams in baseball, 75-37. So it was a nice start to the week. We got a great performance from Anthony Kay, the lefty who came up with the Blue Jays last year after coming over in the Marcus Stroman trade. He went 5 2/3 innings, 8 strikeouts. Only run was on a solo home run. And we got some good work out of the bullpen with Ken Giles coming out with his 23rd save. Two home runs from Vladdy Guerrero Jr. That gives him 25 on the season. He's also hitting .304, and Bo Bichette also went deep. So our two young Lions, our two stars, infield stars at least, and Bichette went deep when going 1 for 4, and that was almost in the entire offense that the Blue Jays had. Randall Grichuk was here, and we've brought up Caleb Joseph. So I don't remember if I went over this in the last sim, but we brought up Caleb Joseph to catch. He's 0 for 1 in this game, but Danny Jansen's really struggling, and I thought maybe somebody else might be able to supplement what he's doing if they're playing a little more often. Second game we lost 11-2. Our starting pitcher in this one was Trent Thornton, and he got just kind of hammered. Sean Reed-Foley also gave up some runs. Wilmer Font as well. Font was one of our all-stars, and maybe he's having a little bit of a hangover from the all-star break. A lot of guys, especially who have really strong first halves of a season, come in and really struggle in the second half of the season after the all-star game. Billy McKinney hit a home run. He's been really good since coming back up from the minors. Danny Jansen 1 for 2 with 2 walks, so that's not bad. He's up to .202 with his batting average. He has fallen below the Mendoza line, the 200 mark. Vladdy Guerrero with another 3 hits, including a double. He's got 37 doubles on the season. We've still got a month and a half left in the season, so that's pretty good. An 8-7 loss here against the Tampa Bay Rays. The really important things to keep in mind here, Grichuk, he's our team leader in home runs. He went deep again, his 27th, and Derek Fisher hit his 20th of the year, going 2 for 4. He's, fallen off quite a bit, but those numbers are still pretty decent. The batting average is, .236, so he's fallen a few points since this game. But the other numbers, the OBP is not bad. 318 is probably right around league average, and 456 slugging percentage is not bad at all. JD Martinez is a little bit slow off the mark here. In his Blue Jays career, he's hitting 118, so he's going to want to do better than that if he's going to get opt out of his contract and get more money next year. And Santiago Espinal drove in 3 runs here. Now, Nate Pearson made the start, and he was hit pretty hard. He struck out 14 in 5 2/3 inning. Just to give you a sense of how insane that is, in 5 2/3 inning, there are 17 outs. So he got 14 of his 17 outs via strikeouts. So that's just absolutely bonkers. But he also gave up 6 runs, and those 6 runs were what caused that loss. Now Ryan Borucki also gave up a couple runs, and Wade Davis, he's been solid since coming over from the Colorado Rockies. We lost the next one 12-9 to Houston. Now, Houston is also one of the better teams in the league. And we really struggled with them, with Tanner Roark really just getting blasted a little bit. 6 runs here, 3 home runs and 7 hits and 3 2/3 innings. Wilmer Font, another run in just a third of an inning. Anthony Bass, 2 runs in an inning. Jordan Romano, 3 runs to take the loss. So overall, not a great game. And offensively, we had Travis Shaw and Kevin Biggio with a couple hits each. Randall Grichuk with his 28th home run, going 1 for 4. Billy McKinney with 2 home runs, driving in 5 of the club's 9 runs. So great performance here from Billy McKinney. Danny Jansen 0 for 4 with a walk. And then a 12-inning loss to the Houston Astros, 4-3. JD Martinez with a 3-hit game, including his first home run as a Blue Jay. Vladdy Guerrero with 2 for 5, and Santiago Espinal was 2 for 2 with a couple of RBI and a double. But on the mound, Chase Anderson, we brought him back up after his rehab assignment. We've been getting some pretty bad starting pitching outings, and with guys like Tanner Roark and Trent Thornton and Matt Shoemaker, they haven't been all that consistent. So we needed some reinforcements, and Chase Anderson was healthy. He had a sort of a weak start in his first outing with the Buffalo Bisons, but he was really strong in his second one. So I figured basically the day that was his turn to pitch, when he was rested again, we brought him up that day. We sent down, I believe it was Sean Reed Foley when we made that move. So Chase Anderson, with 7 strikeouts, 2 runs in 6 innings, a really strong start here. But Jordan Romano took the loss, and Wade Davis gave up a run. And then another loss, 11-4. Again, the pitching staff really kicked it. Matt Shoemaker here with the rough start. Ryan Barucki giving up runs again. Anthony Bass giving up runs again. Wilmer Font has sort of turned around a little bit to go 1 2/3 with a hit allowed and 2 strikeouts. Offensively, again, the guys are actually doing pretty well. Joe Panik here, he's off to a great start this season. 324, 405, 529 slash line. He hit a home run. No, he didn't hit a home run here, but he hit a double. He went 3 for 3 with a walk. So Joe Panik has been very good when he's been in the lineup. Billy McKinney, 1 for 3. Bo Bichette, 1 for 5. Vladdy Guerrero, 2 for 3 with another double. He's up to 39 now. 2 more walks for him, so he's really on fire. JD Martinez, 1 for 4 with a walk. And the last game for the Major League team, we did manage to pick up a win, making it 2 wins for this sim. 8-1 over the Houston Astros. And who was on the mound? It was Anthony Kay for a second strong start in his week. He's definitely our player of the week this week. Really putting an end to some losing streaks both times, I think. Was Kay. And the bullpen, he didn't ask them to do too much. He got 6 2/3 innings out of his start. So only 2 1/3 innings for the bullpen. Tanner Roark, who we've moved to the bullpen with the return of Chase Anderson. So Roark really was not good. He gives up a ton of home runs, and I think he's still under contract for a year, which is really kind of upsetting. And it's not an option or anything. It's another year at $12 million. And then Bichette, 1 for 5. Randall Grichuk, his 29th home run of the year. Travis Shaw, 3 for 4 with his 23rd home run. Kevin Biggio, a big game. He's not playing as much, if you'll notice. His offense has really dropped off. He's got about a 225 average and 306, 323 slash line. Really falling off from his major league debut, so we can call it a sophomore slump, I guess. And, that's why you're seeing Joe Panik get more time. You're seeing Santiago Espinal. He'll play a lot. He's a right-handed hitter, so he'll play a lot against left-handed pitchers. So Biggio is, we're going to keep him in the lineup, let him get his chances, but and hopefully we can get some improvement. You can see he's still got about a half a star remaining for improvement, and his eye is fantastic, but 45 contact is very fringy, and unless that on base percentage, I can live with a 225 batting average if his on base percentage is 330. It's 306 right now. We can't. 68 OPS plus. He's got 0.3 WAR. It's just not good enough. So that's why we're giving guys like Joe Panik and Santiago Espinal a chance. And Caleb Joseph here with a hit, 1 for 4. His batting average is now up to 100. And that's sort of the week for us for the Major League team. Let's go to the minor leagues. And I think this week I'm not going to go through every game because I've already done the sim. I'm not trying to find out what's going on. The Buffalo Bisons here were bad. Let's just face it, they're 43 and 70. They're bad. We once we graduated our sort of top level prospects to the major leagues, we've left the Bisons pretty much empty. The Bisons are, we don't have a lot of guys really on the verge of coming up to the majors. Now, Shun Yamaguchi had an interesting week because we're actually seeing his major league stats right now. So we need to go to Scope here and go to AAA. Shun Yamaguchi, he's been put into the starting rotation in Buffalo. He had one really good start. I think he struck out 12 in his first start here in Buffalo. Here, Syracuse. The first game was against... it was his second start in Buffalo, but here he struck out 12 in his first start of the week, but in his second start of the week gave up 6 runs in 4 1/3 innings. So he's been up and down, and I think the Blue Jays got a little hosed with him, and he's got another year on his contract at $3.175 million. But fortunately, we can kind of eat that and send him to the minors. And then the guys here, Sean Reed Foley's back in the minors. Thomas Pannone, his last start. I don't know why it's not showing me his last start. We can go to his game log. His last start was okay, struck out 9, but gave up 4 runs. Here are the guys who are just borderline, and that 25, as we saw, his 25 movement is just terrible. I mean, that's going to give up so many home runs. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher pitching in a division where home run ballparks are just a dime a dozen. And, 3 of the 5 are, plus home run ballparks in Fenway, Yankee Stadium, and Rogers Center. And then even in Baltimore, you get, a fair amount of home runs there. I think Tropicana Field plays fairly neutrally, but he's just not well suited. If he went to San Diego, for example, he'd probably do a lot better. But we're not in the National League West, and on the relief side of things, Ty Tice started out great. Danny Jimenez has really pitched well. He has a 4 ERA, but if you look at his strikeouts per 9 innings, it's 15 strikeouts per 9 innings. And those are his stats, both at the minors and the majors. I changed it, even though I just told it not to. So in 9 innings, he's walked 8. So that's the big issue with Jimenez. His control, he's got a little more to go on his control. He's very borderline, really successful major leaguer, but I think he can definitely be there. The walks are a little high, so he needs to develop that. James Dykstra has been a nice addition to the bullpen, but again, and Curtis Taylor has been really nice, despite the fact that he has done worse in Buffalo than he has in New Hampshire. So some decent guys here. And on the hitting side, again, very few guys really worthy of a call-up should they get the chance. Reese McGuire in his 1 week back in the minors, he's hitting really well, which is to be expected, I hope. Riley Adams, unfortunately, is not 54 OPS plus, and that's kind of killing his prospect status. It's not a great profile to begin with. He does have that power and the eye, but it's really not showing up here. So, there's not a lot of prospect guys. Andy Burns is doing okay. He's fine. He's having a solid season, and he's providing the Buffalo Bisons with some consistency. Ruben Tejada has been okay. Not a lot of power, which is what, depresses his value. Patrick Kivlahan has been very good. He leads the club in home runs as he did in 2019. But there's a few weeks left in the minor league season, and there's not a lot of guys here in Buffalo who really are warranting any type of call-up. In AA, we have a couple of guys. We have Alejandro Kirk, who has a 123 OPS, so that's 23% above league average. OPS plus. Again, 20% above league average. walking as many times as he's striking out, almost, which is fantastic. 13 home runs from a catcher and a guy who's like, what, 21? Yeah, 21. He's not going to develop a ton of power, but he's got that, and he's still got room to grow, especially in his contact rating. And the average is down to 245, but his eye is so good is that he's got a well above average on base percentage. So, looking at what Kirk has been doing, I'm happy with that. It's not like blowing people out of the water, but it's good enough for someone who's young enough that it's very encouraging. Kevin Smith he's been hovering around league average since a rough start. Josh Palacios is really the standout on this team. Him and Kirk are the two guys who are really producing above and beyond. With Palacios, he's now leading the team in home runs. He has more plate appearances than Kirk does. Kirk being a catcher, he's going to get more days off. He's leading in RBI. He is just one above Kevin Smith. He has struck out a fair bit. 102 strikeouts is quite a few. But he's hitting .297 with a .371 on base percentage and 14 stolen bases. And so, he's quite, I'm very happy with what he's doing. And, I think he's going to be ready for AAA next year. And that's a really good sign. It's just getting somebody up and taking the place of somebody who might not be really doing much or ultimately deserving a call up in Buffalo right now. For the Fisher Cats pitching, Patrick Murphy again has been hit and miss. He's had some really great starts and some really not so great starts. Joey Murray has been really good with a few starts. He's striking out a ton of guys. Last outing was a really good one. He gave up 1 run and struck out 8 in 6 innings. Overall, he's actually got more than a strikeout per inning, which is fantastic. And then Josh Winkowski has had a couple of good starts in a row. His last one, not so great, 2 2/3, 5 runs. But the 2 or 3 before that, 2 runs, 1 run, 1 run. So again, Winkowski's a little bit young. His ceiling doesn't seem to be too high. Again, very borderline, and probably would play up if I put him in the bullpen. This is actually not very accurate, and I've had some contact with Winkowski over the years, and I've heard he's throwing like 95 or so, and that's sort of like where he sits as opposed to 92 to 94. So as he's gotten stronger and as he's matured, he's actually added velocity, and he's in the 95, sometimes to 97 range. I've heard that he has come close to 100 before. He's hit 98. So he's really actually not what they are predicting for him in this game. Travis Burgin has been a little disappointing. I was thinking after the incredible year he had in 2018 and then the experience he got with San Francisco after being selected in the Rule 5, I thought he'd be a little bit better, but the control is really not there. Elvis Luciano, I just want to bring up because he's had 2 starts in a row where he's been excellent. 2 runs, 1 run, 1 earned here in his last 2 outings. So since coming up, he's actually been pretty good. His first outing since coming up from Advanced Day was okay, but his last 2 have been fairly strong, and he is definitely starting to profile as a guy who could be useful in the major leagues. And he's just 20 years old, so again, he's probably the youngest guy on this pitching staff right now. Julian Fernandez, who we picked up in the trade, I think, for Wade Davis as well, got him as a throw-in, and he's got the stuff to be a major league reliever. He's not been great in his Double-A debut with the Blue Jays. But what I'm really looking at here is the 3 walks, 16 strikeouts. So if he can, and he's a power guy, so he could be a good power arm. He's almost there in terms of development. And usually when you see a guy who's 24 and this much potential or unrealized potential, you figure they're probably not going to hit that potential. His changeup will probably never be a really useful pitch, but we need that curveball to come up another couple ticks. So in terms of prospect guys, Brad Wilson's having a quietly a good year. 43 strikeouts in 38 innings and 14 walks. So there's some guys here. Now, as we get towards the end of the minor league season, I'm going through and I'm sort of making lists of what I need to do in the off season. And I'll be honest, there are going to be a lot of releases for these pitchers, especially in the A-ball level. The only problem is I haven't found a lot of guys below this level who have really stepped up and warranted promotions to fill those spots. But we have a lot of really rough pitching in Dunedin and Lansing. And so, for example, Maverick Bufo seems to be getting hammered every time he goes out there. Juan DePaula has been very good lately. His start this week, and in fact, for the Dunedin Blue Jays, for the most part, they had a really good week starting pitching-wise. Juan DePaula had 1 run in 5 innings with 6 strikeouts. Kyle Johnson has been really good since coming up from Lansing, 5 2/3, 1 run, 8 innings, 2 runs. So Kyle Johnson has been very good. Alek Manoah had 1 good start and 1 not so good start. He came out. He was injured with this hamstring strain in the Lakeland game. So fortunately, he's going to be okay in 4 days. But again, if you look at his profile, this is not what we want to see, and this is not what scouts have said about Manoah in real life. So I'm a little disappointed that the game, is not matching what he's doing. Simeon Woods Richardson has a better profile here, and he had a very solid game since coming off the DL. He's had 2 excellent games. He came off, he had an injury, he was gone for a couple of months, 5 strikeouts in 6 innings, no earned runs, 1 earned run in the next one, 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, but 10 ground ball outs. So really nice work there from Simeon Woods Richardson, and he's 19, so I think he's going to finish the year out in Dunedin, and then next year he's going to go up to AA as a 20-year-old. I mean, who does that? That's amazing. So that's our starting pitching, and Alex Nolan has been really strong in Dunedin. He's got a 2.58 ERA, 8 walks, 49 strikeouts in 45 innings. So really, really good work there. And the relief corps has been okay. Sean Rakowski has been a little rough. Jackson Reese has been a little rough. Marcus Reyes has been really good. He's a guy I saw pitch in Lansing last year, and I really liked what he was doing. Maximo Castillo has not been great since he came back. He's striking out a ton of guys, but he's walking a lot too, and that's been really rough. And Castillo's a guy I liked. I've seen him pitch in Lansing a couple of years ago, and I really liked what I saw. And I think he's another guy that I think the developers have gotten wrong in their sort of assessment. And here we are in Dunedin for the hitters. And again, there's not a lot of guys, but there are some who have been very strong. And now you're seeing on the screen, it's all Class A. It's not just the Florida State League. And when I change the scope of the stats to Florida State League, you'll see a little bit of a different story. So Gabby Moreno, he was hot this week, and you can see here the last 5 games, 2 for 4, 3 for 4, home run here. He's been fairly solid. He's got 92 games, 9 home runs in 378 plate appearances, less than in Lansing, but generally, if they're sort of modeling the way the stats go in the Florida State League, that's actually fine, because the Florida State League tends to depress offense, tends to play as a pitcher's league. So his average, 282, 342, 441. I'm very happy with that. And as you can see, that's 16% above league average. Jake Brote has been excellent. I mean, he was just recently released from the Blue Jays at the end of May, but here he's been great. He's got 10 home runs. That's second on the team, and in just 64 games. So he's not playing as much as everybody else, but he's still producing at an incredibly high level. Samad Taylor has been really solid, 365, 398, 456, with 11 home runs. He's leading the team, so that's really good to see. Jesus Lopez, he's been worse since coming up to Dunedin. He's not getting a lot of playing time. And you can see here his profile is not, really a major league profile. That doesn't look like he's going to get to the major leagues with that profile. And Chavez Young has been pretty good as of late. Disappointing to see Griffin Conine, who has, so much raw power. He's just got 3 home runs. So I think Conine's another guy. That 40 contact potential is probably, I don't know if it's low. Haven't seen enough of him, but yeah, he did strike out a lot, despite the fact that he led the Midwest League in home runs last year. And he only played, I think, 80 games because he was suspended for the first 50 of the season. So, but Chavez Young is sort of the other guy in Dunedin who's really putting up some nice offense. Now, I do want to mention that Cameron Eden, who was playing really well, he's gone on the injured list. He broke his thumb, and he's got 4 weeks, so that's probably going to be the rest of the season for him. But he had a great season. He had, in 65 games with Lansing, he hit 305, 387, 476, and he did pretty well when he was promoted to Dunedin, 289, 354, 467 with another 3 home runs. So 8 home runs on the season for Cameron Eden. So really nice to see. I'd love to get him more time defensively so that he can improve those defensive ratings. And Justin Maessi's gone for the year. Mike Ellenbest is gone for the year. Injury-wise for New Hampshire, just Gabriel Guerrero. He has post-concussion syndrome. And in Buffalo, Jonathan Davis is gone short-term. Julian Merriweather is gone for unknown amount of time. And Tim Meza, he was injured before the whole thing started. And again, injuries here. Will Robertson, unfortunately, is going to be gone for the rest of the season. Grant Townsend is going to be gone for the rest of the season. Edison Gonzalez was hurt early in the season. You can see he just got in 1 2/3 innings. And Eric Pardinho had Tommy John surgery in the offseason, so we knew he would not be around. So here we have our pitchers. These are batting stats for some reason. I can never understand why this game just randomly switches which stats you're looking at. So here we are with Class A stats. We're going to put the Midwest League as our scope just to make sure that we're seeing just this league. So the biggest disappointment here has been Adam Kloffenstein. Kloffenstein, just 64 strikeouts in 108 innings, 53 walks, and a 6.63 ERA. So that's, and this club has had really bad pitching. I bet if we went to the info page, they're right at the bottom in pitching. And if you look at this, earned run average 13th in the league, starters ERA 16th, and I think it's a 16-team league. So that's just pretty awful. Bullpen ERA is 12th, runs allowed 13th, WAR is 9th. So it's just, a big disappointment, the Lansing pitching staff. And there are definitely guys here. I have gone through, especially at the lower levels, and released a couple of guys, maybe 3 guys. And that was just really to trim down the numbers for the rest of the season. But it's kind of a big problem here when, almost everybody has an ERA over 4. And I'd say the number of guys who have an ERA under 5 is still, you can count them on one hand. So Juan Nunez is among the team leaders in ERA at 4.13. Hobie Harris is at 3.49. None of our starters have an ERA below 4 or below 5 even. Felipe Castaneda's had 3 innings, and he's one of our best pitchers, even though he's walked 2 and he's only struck out 1. Fitz Stadler, an ERA over 7. Quinones, 6.54. McCaffer, 4.68. Kobe Johnson, his ERA is over almost 6. Luke Gillingham, it's over 5.5. Parker Karachi is over 8. Juan Diaz over 8. It's just really ugly numbers here. And there's definitely going to be a round of releases coming at the end of the year. There's 17 pitchers here, and as we go further down, the other thing that I'm, a little bit annoyed about, and I think I'm going to change for next season, is how I manage the draft, because when I think I drafted the first 6 or 7 rounds and then let the AI auto draft, and I want to get a more realistic cross section of draftees, which are going to be mostly college guys after the first 6-7 rounds, and what that did is it really, and you'll see it when we get there, really weighted the lower minor leagues with newly drafted guys. So there's just not enough playing time to go around on those lower minor league teams like the Gulf Coast League. So I think next season I'm going to manage it a little differently. So going to the offense of the Lansing Lugnuts, we've got Philip Clark, who it looks like he's doing just okay, but his opening of the season until I demoted him to Vancouver was awful. And he was, I think, he had a 100 something batting average. And if we look at his game log, you can see his average for Lansing. And here is where he comes up at the beginning of July. His stats were 133, 333, 133. He had no extra base hits. Had a 467 OPS. And since then, that OPS has gone up to 739. And his ISO is at 100. So, and this week was really good for him. He had 2 hits here, 2 hits here, 2 hits here, 3 hits here. He hit a home run last week, a couple home runs last week, and he hasn't hit much in terms of extra base hits this week. But he's multiple hit games. His average was up to 278 after the 3-for-4 game. He's really turned things around, and he could be better as a catcher if we go to his fielding stats. His ZR minus 1.1 in Vancouver, minus 0.5 here. 33% caught stealing rate is great. And I don't want to blame him for the catcher's ERA, like the ERA of the pitchers while he is catching, because everybody's ERA is awful on this team. So Philip Clark has been very solid and really nice to see, a Vanderbilt guy. The Blue Jays in real life just picked Austin Martin, his teammate from Vanderbilt, on their College World Series winning team from 2019. In this game, I actually checked it out. Austin Martin went first overall in the draft in this game. So that shows you how much, at least in Out of the Park Baseball, they thought of Austin Martin, who the Jays got at the 5th overall pick in the draft in the real world. It's good to see here. I just brought up PK Morris. He's been doing really well in Vancouver, so he's going to take over first base role. Yorman Rodriguez was doing very nicely offensively. He's going to sort of move back to a backup role. But I did want to move some guys around and try to spread get them a little bit more experience at a higher level. So PK Morris, after a solid season in Vancouver, not a ton of power, even though he's supposedly got quite a bit. Again, I think this is a little bit incorrect for his real life abilities, but yeah, I think he's ready for the opportunity. Tanner Morris here, really strong numbers for Morris since joining. I think he joined the season a little late. Miguel Geraldo, since coming up, he's been fine. And again, he's just 19. Jordan Groshans has been coming on of late. 2-hit game, 0 for 2 with a walk. 2-hit game here, 1-hit game. He's got a couple doubles and a triple in the last 5 games. So Jordan Groshans has really been turning it around. Eric Rivera has been a nice surprise. Tanner Kerwer's been okay. Trevor Schwecke has been solid since coming up. And so that's the Lansing Lugnuts. It's the pitching that really bothers me the most about Lansing. Here, Scotty Bradley, we finally found a way, and I think that was through promotion of PK Morris. By promoting him, we've gotten Scotty Bradley, who's just been incredible. We've gotten him a little more playing time. And I mean, his profile is not really a major league profile, but we definitely have gotten him some more playing time here as the DH in every second game. And Davis Schneider, very solid season for him. Nick Gonzalez has been slumping. I've got to say. And he's sort of, the scouts have sort of come off their really high opinion of him. But he has been slumping. If you look at it, one hit. Not a lot of pop lately. Still producing at above league average, but that's definitely returned to the norm. Deferson Barreto, he's probably going to get released in the offseason. Sorry, Deferson. I just don't have a ton of infielders ready for Vancouver right now. He's not playing a ton, but he is DHing every other game. John Solarte has a diagnosis pending injury, so that may get more time for Dominic Abadesa once we know what's wrong with him. Abadesa's been pretty good. And David Schneider, I've mentioned. Spencer Horwitz has been pretty good. And the catchers, they've been okay. I'm not, super thrilled. Justin Ammons, he's a guy I saw in Bluefield last year who looked really good there, but he's sort of not taken to Vancouver. In terms of pitching for Vancouver, again, very similar to Lansing. A lot of guys with very high ERAs. If you look at Kyle Huckabee, over 6, Naswell Paulino, Sam Ryan, Blake Sanderson. Reuter Hernandez has been recently called up, and he's doing really well so far. 4 strikeouts, no walks. That's what I like to see. Winder Garcia has been not very good. He's only 18 years old and will probably repeat the level next year. Lazaro Estrada, I just brought him up as well. Joel Concepcion, not bad. Not bad for Concepcion. Ethan Smith was just brought up from Bluefield. New draftee. He's a 5th rounder. College guy, one of the few college guys I drafted, and it's because I drafted him, not the AI. And he's had 1 start, and it's been okay in Vancouver. Santos Moreno, also recently brought up. Sem Roberts, also recently brought up. He was doing really well. So again, I made a few moves, especially to spread out the pitching a little bit, move some guys up from the lower levels. And here we go to Bluefield. So Bluefield, I haven't moved a ton of guys, just the guys we mentioned like Reuter Hernandez and Santos Moreno and Ethan Smith. Ian Bedell has been solid. I mean, the 5.29 ERA is what it is, but 6 innings, 2 runs, last game, 4 innings, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 innings, 2 runs. It's almost like he's just giving up 2 runs no matter how many innings he goes out there. So he's been slowly whittling down that ERA, especially over the last 3 weeks or so. Trevor Koenig hasn't been great. A lot of walks for him. Alejandro Melian has been okay, and he's striking out a lot of guys, and that's good to see. Zachary Murray hasn't been great. Kendall Williams is a big disappointment. Williams was the 2nd-round draft pick of the Blue Jays last year, a high school kid out of Florida. And this is just not a nice line to see. So I'm really, they have a pretty low ceiling on him. I think he's going to be much better than that in real life. He's not a hard thrower. He's still pretty young. Big kid, though. Big kid. He's like 6'5", 6'6", 205. So he can fill out a little more. But he's supposed to be a very good pitcher for his age. So seeing that rough year here for him is disappointing. Connor Santala, he's a guy that we drafted. Lots of walks for him. Jacob Smith is another guy we drafted this year. Anders Tolhurst has come up, I believe, from the Gulf Coast League. Yeah, he's a recent call-up, and 24 strikeouts in 12 innings. That's like, okay, yeah, he's ready. And Max Rychich has been quite good. He's another call-up from Gulf Coast League to give him some work here in the Appalachian League. Offensively, Bobby Seymour has been very strong in his debut in his draft year. We've got a really strong season from Angel Camacho. He'll be probably in Lansing next year. We'll see what happens. Josiah Miller has been red hot. This week he's hit, I think, another 3 home runs. He hits them in bunches. 2 here, 1 here. 10 home runs so far for Josiah Miller. And if we look at his, where are we, info? Where are the reports? So here's our batting stats, and we can just do that. And Angel Camacho's our leader with 12 home runs, but Josiah Miller, who is 20 and Camacho's 23, he's got 10 home runs, and he's playing every day, but he is our second guy on the team in home runs. Or Elvis Martinez, in just 20 games, he has a 1.5 WAR. He was so good. I think he's on the injured list right now. Yeah, he's got a foot contusion. He's doing okay in Vancouver. He's not doing anything fantastic. He's got a couple home runs. But nothing, off the charts. But he's still 18 in Vancouver. So Martinez is going to miss a week. And Desan Brown is another guy that we're really watching. He's got very low slugging. He's not expected to, especially this early in his career. But, he's a speed guy, speed first guy. As you can see, 80 grade speed. Great outfield range. So he's a center fielder through and through. But again, the bat is always going to be, is it going to develop enough? And we've taken a look at the pitching, so we'll go down to the Gulf Coast League now. And again, we've released a couple guys, and we've sort of made room. Again, this whole starting rotation is full of guys who are newly drafted. And they're all about 18 or 19 now. So Ben Hernandez, Liam Norris, 18, Carson Hamrow, Camden Minacci, Drew Dowd. So these guys are all newly drafted guys. They're all very young. And so we kind of cleared some room for them because this team, we have 25 pitchers now. We promoted a couple and we released a couple. I think we had 29 pitchers, before I released a couple of guys. And there are going to be other guys who will get released as well. I didn't want to release anyone who was too much older than 19 or 20. So you'll see that pretty much the remainder of our pitching staff is all 18 or 19. Adrian Hernandez is the old man, but I think, he's got some potential here, so I didn't want to give up on him a little bit too early. Jefferson Herrera's 21, and he may be one of the next guys to go. 19, 20, 19. Yeah, so the guys who are left are all pretty young. Warnell Valdez, he might be a victim in the next one. The pitching hasn't been fantastic. It hasn't been great. The team is well below 500. 306 winning percentage. And then when we look here, I think I did release a couple of guys. We've got 28 offensive players. Again, it's too many guys, too many high school guys taken in the draft. Michael Arias, he's only 18, so I didn't want to release him, and he's been playing very well at 15 games, started 22 games, so he's been one of our offensive leaders. Sam Brown is a new draftee. He's just 17, so I'm not worried about him getting too much playing time right now. Wyatt Langford has not been very good. He's a new draftee, but he's probably a late round, 31st round. Tommy Troy, another guy, another draftee. He's a 10th round pick, so hoping for a little bit more out of him. But again, these high school guys are so, it's so up and down. Caden Grice, he's the guy that was we had him pitching a little bit too, but I figured that his potential here, and if you look at the OSA, we'll see what we get. But his potential is just so much more as a hitter than it is as a pitcher. I didn't want to waste any time pitching. And Carson Wells has been very solid. Again, 15 starts for Wells. He's our sort of regular left fielder. Jag Burden, another draftee. He's got some potential on him, more potential than Wells. And Trey Carter, another draftee. Brandon Fields, another draftee. And Jean-Christophe Masson is one of the youngest guys to ever get drafted. And the reason is he came out of Quebec. And Quebec has a different school system where they have high school sort of lasts until you're about 16, and then you do what's called CEGEP. It's the acronym of CEGEP. And CEGEP is a system where they do up to 2 years if they're going to go on to university. And it kind of covers the last year of high school and first year of university if you're, in a 4-year high school type of system. And so Masson finished his high school and basically became draft eligible and didn't go to CEGEP. And so he was able to be drafted at 16, which is one of the youngest ages. And the Blue Jays drafted him last season. He didn't play last season. So this is actually his professional debut. And he actually, this week, I think he hit a home run, and he's doing just fine at the age of 17. So he's a really interesting guy to have on the team. And then in the Dominican Summer League, again, we're really looking at just a few guys, and we're probably going to have a big round of releases here too. De Castro and Esteban Machado are pretty much doing very similar things. A little bit more power from Machado, a little bit more average from De Castro. And then our international signee, Alfredo Chacon, 330 batting average, not a lot of power, but again, he's still 16. And again, one of the kind of loopholes of the game is that you can take your international signees and put them in the Dominican Summer League right away, or you can put them anywhere really, but they're not really ready for anything else. Normally they can't play until the following season. They play in what's called the Tricky League, which is sort of a non-official league in the Dominican Republic. Starlin Beltre is also doing really, really well. He's red hot. He's got 5 home runs. That leads the team. And pitching, there's not much there. So that's it. I mean, we had a bad week, but we're still only half a game out of the wild card spot. We're still in it. And the Yankees did overtake us, but it's just by half a game. So that's it. We still have some pitching troubles, but I think Hyunjin Ryu is just a week away from coming back, or 2 weeks away from coming back. So if we can hold on, we're going to get some pitching back, and we're going to get Lourdes Gurriel Jr. back very soon. So, one more week without those two guys, I think we may very well be able to make a run at that wild card spot when Ryu gets back. We can sort of get our sort of A team in terms of the pitching, and then get our A lineup out there with Gurriel back in left field. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm JayBlue of Blue Jays From Away. You can find me at Jays From Away on Twitter. And thanks to GM Games for hosting us on their YouTube channel. That's all for today. Come on back soon. Have a great day.